Please listen carefully.
Well, hello, universe, and welcome to the Optimist Daily Update. I'm Kristy Jansen.
And I'm Summers McKay.
And we're part of the team on this Cinco de Mayo behind the Optimist Daily, making solutions the news. We bring you reader-funded solutions news every day in order to change the tenor of news media, social media, and the direction of your day to help make it one focused on solutions.
7 días cada semana, 7 days a week, we publish positive news stories written by award-winning journalists and delivered online to your inbox and through our social channels. And also, we are sharing these solutions in a commute-worthy, walk-worthy, home office-worthy podcast. Today is Wednesday, the 5th of May, 2021. So, Kristy, we could try to do as much of this in Spanish as possible because both you and I fumble around our Spanish here.
Yes, I think that would be unappreciated by most of our listeners. just to embarrass ourselves. And the funny thing about Cinco de Mayo is it's a very American holiday.
Totally.
Yes, they have a bit of a celebration in Mexico, but like my husband, who is originally from Mexico, it's like that was just it's only one of the various days. It's not even their Independence Day,
right?
Which actually happens, I think, in September. So anyway,
it's literally like Margarita Day.
It's really just a day for us to drink margaritas and eat guacamole in the United States.
Exactly. Ooh! I have a funny guacamole story, real quick. So it turns out my daughter, who loves guacamole, right? We feed her avocado guacamole all the time. In California, generally speaking, guacamole is not spicy.
You haven't had our guacamole.
But like restaurant guacamole largely is more on the bland side, right?
Very true.
Right. That's not true in Texas. So I'm going to just paint a picture of like the worst parenting moment of the year. Probably not, but we're at a restaurant trying desperately to order something Mexican food-wise that doesn't have bell peppers because of my bell pepper allergy. And Brennan is just like munching away on guacamole. And all of a sudden she has her tongue out and she's like wiping her tongue and like yelling at us. And like she's got a napkin and she's wiping her tongue. And my husband, like the first thing he can think of is he grabs the lime that's in his margarita, right? And like licks it and gives it to her because that'll cut the taste. So then all of a sudden she's like kind of loopy. So basically we gave her jalapenos and then we gave her a tequila soaked lime.
You should have waited for tonight. So then she'll have like the whole Cinco de Mayo American experience. That's wonderful.
Yeah. On the way home, because they didn't actually have anything that didn't have bell peppers. So we ended up just having 2 margaritas and giving our daughter guacamole and then going out for pho. But on the way to the next restaurant, she was sitting there playing with like her little toy phone, like it was the most fun thing she'd ever seen in her entire life. And we were like, that is going to be way less fun later, kid. So yeah, that's my Cinco de Mayo. That's my pre-Cinco de Mayo celebration story. So tonight, I don't think there will be any margaritas or guacamole in our family. We're on a moratorium.
Right. But I'm going to make some for my family tonight. So that'll be good.
Well, enjoy. Well, actually, that kind of leads to our first story, which is Cinco de Mayo themed. Not really exactly.
Not really, but it has a Latinx.
Exactly. It has a Latinx quality to it. So I love this story. It is about inclusive media and showing diversity and various experiences in media. And this time it is not just happening in U.S. soap operas, but in fact in telenovelas. So the headline reads, Enlace, a program, uses telenovelas to raise the voices of queer Latinx youth. Navigating adolescence in itself is unbelievably challenging. It takes physical, mental, emotional toll on budding adults just to be human. During this particular time, however, queer Latinx youth may find themselves particularly at trying crossroads. Isolation and discrimination is pretty common because in the culture, there isn't a lot of open discussion about queer and transgender experiences. Oregon State University recently discovered that Latinx youth are more likely to face isolation, and even within queer spaces, experience racism and xenophobia. So they're getting these dual forces of isolation and racism together. So a assistant professor and program director of global health at Oregon State University, Jonathan Garcia, who grew up as a queer Latinx adolescent from Colombia, has helped take a program director role in the Engaging the Next Latin Allies for Change and Equality, the Enlace program. He recalled watching telenovelas as he grew up with his mother and grandmother and found himself sort of disillusioned by the few queer characters that existed or took center stage, and generally the reinforced gender stereotypes that exist in telenovelas. Through En Lace, Garcia is changing the limiting narrative by allowing real stories of queer Latinx youth to be told and revealing some of the true complexity, depth, and bravery of these identities. The show is taking on situations where parents are rejecting their queer Latinx youth, where parents are accepting them, where conversations are happening, where they're not. It's very, very straightforward in the sense that it's taking on real situations and then allowing that to be the groundwork for conversations for families who watch these shows.
Sure. And Summers, I think this is a super important, it is actually a solution to helping these youth figure out who they are and who they are in relation to the world. And it's interesting to think how powerful media representations can be in transforming and educating and helping people have a new empathy and understanding for different lived experiences in the world. If you think about, I think like Will and Grace, which was so popular in the 90s, that was one of those, it was the first storyline that included gay characters just as and it was funny and everyone liked them and made them understandable in a way. Then Ellen coming out and those kinds of representations. And you have Modern Family that kind of make it understandable and empathetic. And now in that same period of time, we went from a country that was really, really closed minded to the queer experience to, I mean, it's still hotly debated in certain ways, but I think in most young people just take it for granted. That's just part of life. It's not threatening on a existential level for many people now because they understand this is just part of lived experience for some folks. I just think this is a really important development focusing on the Latinx in the Spanish-speaking world.
What I like about it is that the telenovelas are a multi-generational sort of experience.
Exactly.
And so it allows for a conversation to exist between the grandchildren and the abuela, like about something that they can have a common dialogue. And that is something, you know, in the United States, soap operas, I mean, I had my day with soap operas. There was certainly like a fair amount of General Hospital in my younger years. And I haven't watched
Days of Our Lives. I was really into Days of Our Lives.
Days of Our Lives. So I actually interned at Days of Our Lives when I was a kid. But that being said, in particular in the Latinx culture, telenovelas really are a sort of anchor for families in a lot of homes. And so this is a great way to give a conversation tool. And we talk about this at the Optimist Daily often, because our audience, our reading audience, the folks who read the Optimist Daily on our website, largely skew a little bit older, and we don't reach the youth, right? We don't reach kids as easily because we generally have in the past marketed on Facebook. We have a traditional newsletters process that we do that sends by email. Through the podcast and through Instagram and some other channels that we're researching, we're looking for ways to communicate solutions and positive news to multi-generations. But this telenovela really is an opportunity to start a dialogue between multiple generations. So I think that whenever we want to create change in thought, we can't just rule out the grandparents or the teenagers, right? Everybody from young to old needs to be engaged in the discussion so that it can evolve.
I agree. And so anyway, I think this is an interesting solution in honor of Cinco de Mayo, which is, you know, our Latinx adjacent holiday.
Yeah, which is like our fake Latinx holiday, but still margaritas.
Exactly. You know, margaritas. I like this.
What else did you like on the Optimist Daily today?
Well, speaking of looking at the whole life cycle, story I want to highlight, and this is just super short, but there's a headline that reads, "Innovative surgery spares dozens of babies with spina bifida from paralysis." And spina bifida is a birth defect that prevents spine and spinal cord development from forming properly, and it can eventually make that baby vulnerable to life-threatening health problems, including bladder and bowel dysfunction, paralysis.
Yeah.
And the most common effort to treat the condition is to perform a surgery soon after birth, but that often can have other complications, and it doesn't always, the sooner the better.
Right.
Is what they've discovered. And with the modern advances in medicine, it's pretty incredible that they're now able to do this surgery in utero, and that has even a better outcome. Doctors in the UK have recently shown this, and they've recently made this into more of the standard operating procedure for folks who have a child who does have the spina bifida issue. And so now they are able to operate one of the babies still in the womb, and it has a better outcome. Since January 2020, it's a very complex surgery, but it has been done and spared dozens of babies with the condition from suffering from the paralysis and incontinence, which is a common outcome for folks who were born with this situation. The reason I wanted to highlight this story is I'm just still in awe of the medical advances in science that come out. I was listening to another article the other day about bioengineering and sort of the biology inspired engineering and new methodologies that they're coming up with, new kinds of surgical glues, new kinds of surgical staples that are inspired by the natural world. Like there's a staple that's inspired by porcupine quills, for example, and it has it's less invasive and leads to less complications because it doesn't let more bacteria in. There's a glue that they're developing that can help glue heart tissue together, and that's specifically for infant heart surgeries because the staples and the glue in those situations are often don't work. So they're coming up with this new glue, but that's inspired by some sea slug or sea snail or something. It's mind blowing the of advances I'm just so grateful to live in a world that has that kind of an approach, and it makes our whole lives better. And I think that's exciting. On the other hand, it would be really great if we could emphasize wellness and, things like the story from yesterday, eliminating processed sugar and really getting off of processed foods, which have such dire lifestyle diseases. After eating that way for 30 years, you end up with things like diabetes, and it's linked to Alzheimer's and heart disease. And I wish that we could all, just have better habits that will lead to better lived lives. But on the other hand, having these tremendous advances is very exciting to me.
Well, it is very exciting. And certainly, spina bifida, there are some things that aren't environmental and some things that are, right? And there's nurture and nature. And I love that these advances can help with, things that really parents have no control over, right? A mom has no control over whether or not her little one is going to have spina bifida. And the fact that parents can have this alleviated earlier and earlier in the process is really extraordinary. And, there's a lot of things that are inspiring on the Optimist Daily today. We're kind of running long, so I'll throw in just a couple headlines. Scientists develop tech that can detect early signs of dementia in older drivers. EU signs historic deal that makes climate goals legally binding. Hey, Kristy, it's like the EU heard from Hawaii yesterday, and we're like, game on. You know what? That and a bunch more other great stories on the Optimist Daily today. It is Wednesday and it's hump day and we've got meetings to get to, so we'll leave you with that. But thank you everyone for listening to the Optimist Daily Update. We promise to continue to share positive solution-based stories with ideas on how you can participate in this changing world and ensure it is changed for the good. We promise to cover the current events with accuracy, legitimate sources, and offer you the information needed most to chart new paths for all of us.
And if you appreciate what we're doing and you want to get involved with the Optimist Daily in a deeper way, please consider becoming an emissary on theoptimistdaily.com. And for just $5 a month, you can help support reader-funded independent journalism and help us push the world over to that solution-changing consciousness that addresses our world's biggest challenges with a problem-solving mindset. Let's keep the Optimist Daily free for everyone who needs it, supported by those of us who can. Thanks so much for listening. Happy Cinco de Mayo. We'll be back tomorrow.
Bye, everybody. Have a great day.